Alright, after they just dropped the Switch 2 announcement earlier this year, Nintendo now finally revealed something about the new console. Not all that much, it was mostly games, and a lot of them were already shown a week earlier in another Nintendo Direct. Why even have the one when everyone was waiting for the big Switch 2 Direct? At first I thought that maybe they didn't want to have random game releases and ports take away from all the Switch 2 stuff, but then half the presentation was just these releases. But alright. Well, the most important piece of information they unceremoniously dropped in between two other topics was the launch date for the Switch 2, which is June 5th, so try to get it before the scalpers. They didn't really tell us too much about the system itself. The screen is now a bit bigger and has higher resolution, it also supports up to 100 FPS and HDR, and the dock will enable 4K resolution as well as HDR. Nothing said about frame rate, but there was a little note on the bottom that said in 4K mode it will be limited to 60. So there is a chance that games might run smoother in lower resolutions in TV mode. Sound output will be better, but they didn't really specify anything aside from it being able to output 3D sound. It comes with 256 gigs of onboard storage, that's supposed to be faster than the one in the previous console, and it will also use microSD express cards, and is not compatible with the Nintendo Switch SD cards. But you can transfer your save data through the system transfer onto the new console. The Switch 2 game cards are also supposed to load faster than the previous ones, but again they didn't specify too much about it. The dock will also have a cooling fan, so I guess the performance in TV mode will be better, which was an issue with the first Switch. That's pretty much it for the specs. They didn't say anything about the graphics processor or RAM or whatever, so my guess is that this console will once again be one generation behind. They showed some quality of life features like a better adjustable stand, where you can fully adjust the angle of the console, and one additional USB-C port on the console itself to connect periphery, like a webcam, and we will come to that, or have an easier time charging while in tabletop mode. Another addition to the console is a built-in microphone. This was a major talking point in the presentation. The new controller will have a dedicated chat button, well, for chatting. The mic itself sits inside the console and not the controller for some reason, which is a bit weird because my consoles at least are placed near the TV, so I fear I would constantly broadcast the in-game sounds to my chat party. There will be some noise cancelling, but let's see how well this works, especially when the mic picks up voices from the TV. In addition to voice chat, you can also screen share, and this works between different games, so you can just watch along what your friends are playing while playing something completely different yourself. The frame rate of the other player's feed looked incredibly low though, so I'm not sure how useful this will actually be. There will also be a Nintendo Switch camera, so you can have some FaceTime, and some games will incorporate this feature more immersively, so that you don't always just have an ugly picture-in-picture. The chat feature will require an online membership, but there will be a trial period. Maybe Nintendo think that way they can get people hooked on this pretty useless feature. This should just be available to all and be well integrated into especially multiplayer games, so that people just naturally opt to use it. And then Nintendo could release games or services that make even more use out of this for people to buy. Now, they talked as much, if not more, about the game chat as they talked about the Switch 2 specs and all. The other big thing they spent a lot of time on was the controllers. Aside from the new chat button on the right Joy-Con, they increased the size of the shoulder buttons and thumbsticks for comfort. No talk on thumbstick drift though. Not that I really expected them to. They haven't really been addressing this huge and still persisting problem with the original Switch's standard controllers. So if they now announce that the problem is fixed with the new console, they would kinda admit their fuck up. And speaking of fuck ups, the Nintendo of America version of the stream just froze midway through and it took them quite a bit to notice, and then they rewound too much and scrambled to getting it synced up with the audio again. It seems like they just screen captured the Japanese presentation and used the audio from that stream. It's so Nintendo to screw up a live presentation. The new Joy-Cons will now connect magnetically to the system and can be released with a dedicated button. Also, both Joy-Cons can be used as a mouse, at least with compatible games. They showed a golf game where you use the mouse functionality in combination with the gyroscope to adjust the angle of the golf club. Some existing games will have small uses for the mouse, and there will even be a game fully designed around the mouse, called Drag and Drive, which releases in summer. It's a 3-on-3 wheelchair basketball game, where you use both mice to control your movement and perform tricks. So a bit of Special Olympics Rocket League. I dig it. They focused quite a bit on the mouse and camera functionality and how this enhances already existing games. How little features were added to them. So I think it's gonna be pretty neat and not further developed or even used after the first 4 months or so. Like with all the features on the Switch 1. We never got that rock, paper, scissors game. There will also be a new Switch 2 Pro controller that has some additional buttons on the back that you can map any function you want on. So it's some nice customization, nothing all too special, but well appreciated. As for the games, the Switch 2 will be compatible with Switch 1 and 2 games, both physical and digitally, as we have already learned during the announcement. They specified compatible Switch 1 games, but this sounds more like a disclaimer than anything else. There surely are a handful of games so tied to the original Switch for one highly specific reason or another that it is not possible to bring it over to the Switch 2. Kinda like with Guitar Hero on the DS, which doesn't work on the 3DS because you can't connect the guitar buttons to it. There will also be enhanced versions of some Switch 1 games that you can buy new or just get a digital upgrade for the games you already own. You have to buy this as well. No free upgrades for old games to make more use out of your new console that doesn't have a million games already out, or to see what the system is capable of. No, buy more of our shit, consumer pig. I mean, honestly, I don't expect a company to give away everything for free. And I mean, some of the enhanced editions will have new content, like Kirby just straight up gets an expansion bundled with the Switch 2 version. But come on, don't have me pay for slight graphical enhancements to Tears of the Kingdom. Use it as a kind of tech demo for your new system to get some word of mouth around. Oh, and since I'm already talking about this, they sell you a tech demo. They made this neat little Switch 2 presentation game where you can walk around the inside of your system, learn about all the features, maybe have a few mini games, and you have to buy it. This should be pre-installed on the console. Sony gave us Astro's Playroom for free, and that was a fully fledged game. God, this is yet again such a Nintendo move to make. So it's surprising that Nintendo doesn't charge us for their new Game Share feature. Well, it's not actually new, isn't it? They already had this on the DS and 3DS, where you were able to play multiplayer games with your friends, even if only one of you owned the game. Now the same will be possible on the Switch, both 1 and 2, I guess for some cross-platform multiplayer. With Switch 1 games, naturally. But yeah, nice to have it, nothing really to complain about it. The rest of the presentation was all about games. A lot of ports that sometimes have slight improvements, some new releases we have already seen in the previous Direct, but also some pretty interesting reveals. The whole show actually started with Mario Kart World, as it is now called. We have seen a glimpse of it during the Switch 2 reveal, but now we got a lot more information on it. From what we can see, races will now have a larger number of participants. There will be some new characters like the Hammer Bro or even the fucking cows. Not sure if this is just like an item effect or an actual character, but it's neat either way. It also looks like there are different outfits for the characters that can be switched on the fly. Again, these could be item effects, but with what they said about the direction this new game is going, this could very well be a new feature. Unlock different outfits and just change into them whenever you like. The carts can now transform into planes, jet skis and snowmobiles, similar to the underwater or stasis mode from previous games. And this also happens on the fly, so whenever you drive into a body of water, your cart switches into jet ski mode. Tracks will now take players around the world. Cups will still consist of 4 races, but now it seems the game world, well, yeah. There is now a game world, and you have to drive through it to reach a race destination. This might depend on the mode, and there will surely be some ease of use or quality of life options, But yeah, you now can take your kart off-road. Drive around the world. There is a dedicated free roam mode that even supports multiplayer, so you can just go for a joyride with your friends. Fucking amazing! I always wanted this from the beautiful tracks in MK8, and now they just made a whole game out of it. And with different daytimes and weather effects, you can surely sink a lot of times just into driving around the game world. It's still sad to leave their massive track selection of Mario Kart 8 behind, but this feature is totally worth it. Alongside a new elimination game mode that fully utilizes this approach. I guess that's what they've been testing with their Tetris 99 and Mario Bros 99 and F-Zero 99. This new mode has you drive from one end of the continent or land, well, digital landmass, to the other, passing checkpoints and trying to be fast enough to not get eliminated and reach the end. God, that one I'm really giddy about. I want this. It's gonna release alongside the Switch 2 and there will even be a bundled version, so yeah, this will have a pretty decent install base from the get-go. Among the quickfire announcements was Metroid Prime 4, which will release on Switch 1 but will also get an enhanced Switch 2 edition, which is reasonable. The enhanced version will have better performance, so for Switch 2 users, it's only sensible to get that one. The same goes for the new Pokemon game, though there, I guess the enhanced version is the only way to have the game in an actual playable state, given Nintendo's track record with this series as of late. Demon X Machina 2 was now announced for the Switch 2, and also a still untitled new James Bond game from IO Interactive. Bravely Default gets a remaster on Switch, so that's nice, and even Toby Fox got comparatively quite a large time slot in this presentation, to announce the first 4 chapters of Deltarune coming to Switch 2 on launch day. This won't be the complete game, I believe there once were 8 chapters or so planned, but it's still huge for an indie dev to be featured so prominently in a console reveal and have their game advertised as a launch title. Nintendo just loves the composer of Undertale's soundtrack, it seems. Another big announcement was the new Hyrule Warriors game. Similarly to the previous one, this one will tie into Tears of the Kingdom and is about Zelda's journey when she traveled to the past and took part in the Imprisoning War. This one will not at least at launch though, but sometime in winter. Like I said, they showed off a lot of games and many of them weren't that special, at least the announcements weren't that special. They also announced the GameCube Virtual Console for Switch 2, which requires, once again, the premium online membership. But I mean, it was only a matter of time before that one arrived. There will also be a GameCube Classic controller that even has the new chat button. The games at release will be Wind Waker, F-Zero GX, and the best of all Soul Caliburs, so if you have the premium subscription, you can look forward to some neat classic games and chat with your friends while you play them. Before they wrapped up the whole show, they just threw out another 3 big announcements. One of them was a sequel to Kirby's Air Ride on the GameCube, with Sakurai himself at the helm. And that was actually part of the announcement. But I mean, it's fair. Not only has he proven himself as a talented game designer, he's also a fan darling, so of course they're gonna use him for the marketing. Then they just dropped that From Software is developing Bloodborne 2 for the Switch 2. Nah, not really. It's called The Duskbloods and it is its own new IP. But it has some similar art design. I mean, well duh. But it has this Victorian Gothic style, but there's some modernity going on. Some industrial revolution, maybe some steampunk. There's also a lot of verticality going on, and it seems there will be a focus on fast, large distance traversal. And it looks like you're a vampire. So it's Vampire Souls. After we got the off-brand Vampire Souls a few years ago. I mean, I'm already sold on this. It does look a bit weak graphically, but I mean, it is developed for the Switch 2. Miyazaki himself is working on it, so at least it will be better than Dark Souls 2, right? And it's planned for 2026, so there is a bit of time left to touch things up. The last announcement was a new Donkey Kong game, and it's huge. It's a 3D platformer, maybe even a collectathon. Well, at least there's the good old pickups. The focus is square on action, with all kinds of fast and brutal attacks. The environment looks to be largely destructible, like Donkey can punch through walls and rocks, dig into the ground or pull chunks out of the ground to use as a weapon. Donkey's design goes back to his earlier appearances, and the game world seems to go for something completely new for the franchise. It's sometimes very vibrant, eerily similar to Mario Odyssey in some parts, and borderline psychedelic in others. Gremlins still don't seem to show up, so yeah, I guess the book is completely closed on anything Rare made. Well, except for Diddy. And the animal bodies. It even shows with the music. The track we hear in the trailer is awesome and sounds nothing like the goofy, upbeat tunes from Kirkhope. It will release on July 7th, so I know what I'm gonna play on the plane during summer vacation. And that's it. That's all we know so far about the Switch 2. They didn't say much about the system itself. It most likely will be just more of the same, with slightly better performance, but same as with the previous system, behind the competition. The few new features are fine enough, but not a selling point for me. The selling point for me, with any Nintendo console I guess, are the first party or exclusive games. And that's what they focused on with this reveal, which makes a lot of sense. I have somewhat mixed feelings about all this. I'm looking forward to some of the games, Mario Kart of course, Donkey Kong, that vampire game from Metroid of course is on my list, and I mean, I'm a sucker for the silly little minigame thingies, they're more playful experiences, so I'm happy to play around with the mouse and maybe even the camera, we'll see, but I'm also certain not much will come out of it after the initial few releases. Nonetheless, I'm happy that there will be a substantial upgrade to the Switch, that there will be new games that can utilize a bit more power, and that Nintendo still has this spark of inspiration. God, I will drive around so much in Mario Kart, and I can't wait for Donkey Kong. But yeah, with that, I'm out. I wish you the greatest of days, and of course, I hope to see you again on the next game.